Once upon a time in a Persian city there lived a poor tailor. He had a wife and a son named Aladdin. When Aladdin turned 10, his father wanted to teach him the trade. But he had no money to pay for a proper apprenticeship, so he taught Aladdin to sew clothes himself. This Aladdin was a great idler. He did not want to learn anything, and as soon as his father went off to a customer, Aladdin ran out into the street to play with the other boys, such rascals as he. From morning to night they ran through the town, shooting sparrows with small crossbows, or climbed into other people's gardens and vineyards and stuffed themselves with grapes and peaches. But most of all they loved to tease some simpleton or cripple. They jumped around him and shouted, "Possessed! Possessed!" and threw stones and rotten apples at him. Aladdin's father was so grieved by his son's pranks that he grew sick and died. Then his wife sold everything that remained of his things and began to spin cotton and sell yarn to support herself and her idle son. And he did not even think of helping his mother and only came home to eat and sleep. Many years passed in this way. Aladdin turned 15. One day, as he usual was playing with the boys, a dervish, a wandering monk, approached them. He looked at Aladdin and said to himself, "This is the one I have been looking for. I have suffered many misfortunes before I found him." This dervish was a Maghrebi, a man from the Maghreb. He signaled one of the boys to come closer and asked who Aladdin and his father were. Then he went up to Aladdin and asked him, "Aren't you the son of Hassan the tailor?" "I am," answered Aladdin, "but my father died long ago." Hearing this, the Maghrebi embraced Aladdin and began to cry loudly and beat his breast, crying, "No, my child, that your father is my brother. I came to this city after a long absence and rejoiced to see my brother Hassan, and now he is dead. I recognized you at once because you greatly resemble your father." Then the Maghrebi gave Aladdin 2 dinars and said, "My child, there is no one left to comfort me except you. Give this money to your mother and tell her that your uncle has returned and will come to dine with you tomorrow. Let her prepare a good dinner." Aladdin ran to his mother and told her all that the Maghrebi had ordered, but his mother became angry. "All you do is laugh at me. Your father had no brother. Where did this uncle of yours come from?" "How can you say I have no uncle?" cried Aladdin. "This man is my uncle. He embraced me and cried and gave me these dinars. He will come to dine with us tomorrow." The next day Aladdin's mother borrowed dishes from neighbors and, having bought meat, greens and fruit at the market, made a fine dinner. This time Aladdin stayed at home all day waiting for his uncle. In the evening there was a knock at the gate. Aladdin rushed to open it. It was the Maghrebi, and he had with him a servant who carried exotic Maghrebi fruits and sweets. The servant set his load down and left, and the Maghrebi entered the house, greeted Aladdin's mother and said, "Show me the place where my brother used to sit at dinner." They showed him, and the Maghrebi began to groan and weep so loudly that Aladdin's mother believed that the man truly was her husband's brother. She comforted the Maghrebi, and he soon calmed down and said, "O wife of my brother, do not be surprised that you have never seen me. I left this city 40 years ago. I traveled in India, in the Arab lands, in the lands of the far west and in Egypt and spent 30 years in my journeys. When I desired to return home, I said to myself, 'O man, you have a brother and he may be in need, and you have done him no good so far. Find your brother and see how he lives.' So I set out and traveled many days and nights, and finally I found you. I see that my brother is dead, but he left a son who will work in his place and support himself and his mother." "No such thing," exclaimed Aladdin's mother. "I have never seen such an idler as this wretched boy. All day he runs about the town, shoots crows and steals grapes and apples from neighbors. You should make him help his mother." "Do not grieve, O wife of my brother," answered the Maghrebi. "Tomorrow Aladdin and I will go to the market, and I will buy him fine clothes. Let him see how people sell and buy, perhaps he will want to trade himself, and then I will bind him to learn a trade with a merchant. When he has learned, I will open a shop for him, and he himself will become a merchant and grow wealthy. Is that well, Aladdin?" Aladdin sat blushing with joy and could not utter a single word, he only nodded his head, "Yes, yes." When the Maghrebi left, Aladdin went to bed at once, eager for morning to come, but he could not sleep and tossed from side to side all night. At first light he sprang from his bed and ran out the gate to meet his uncle. The uncle did not keep him waiting long. First they went to the bath. There Aladdin was washed and his joints rubbed until every joint cracked loudly. Then his head was shaved, he was perfumed and given rosewater sweetened with sugar to drink. After this the Maghrebi led Aladdin to a shop, and Aladdin chose for himself the finest and most beautiful garments, a yellow silk robe with green stripes, a red cap embroidered with gold, and high soft leather boots studded with silver horseshoes. True, the boots were tight on his feet. Aladdin was wearing shoes for the first time in his life, but he would not agree to take them off. His head under the cap was all damp and sweat ran down his face, but it was seen by all how prettily he wiped his forehead with a silk handkerchief. They wandered the market and went toward a large grove that began just outside the town. The sun stood high, and Aladdin had not eaten since morning. He was very hungry and quite tired, having walked a long time in the tight boots, but he was ashamed to confess it and waited for his uncle to become hungry. But the Maghrebi went on and on. They had long left the town, and Aladdin's thirst tormented him. At last he could not bear it and asked, "Uncle, when shall we dine? There are no shops or taverns here, and you took nothing from town. You only have an empty bag in your hand. Do you see that tall mountain ahead?" said the Maghrebi. "We are going to that mountain, and I wanted to rest and eat at its foot. But if you are greatly hungry, we can dine here. Where will you find dinner?" Aladdin asked in surprise. "You will see," said the Maghrebi. They sat down beneath a tall cypress, and the Maghrebi asked Aladdin, "What would you like to eat now?" Aladdin's mother every day had cooked the same dish for dinner, boiled beans with hemp oil. Aladdin was so hungry that he answered without thinking, "Give me at least boiled beans with oil." "Would you not like roasted chickens?" the Maghrebi asked. "I would," Aladdin replied impatiently. "Would you like rice with honey?" the Maghrebi continued. "I would," cried Aladdin, "I want everything. But where will you get all this, uncle?" "From the bag," said the Maghrebi and untied it. Aladdin peered into the bag with curiosity, but there was nothing in it. "Where are the chickens?" he asked. "Here," said the Maghrebi, and, putting his hand into the bag, he took out a dish of roasted chickens. "And here is the rice with honey, and the boiled beans, and grapes, and pomegranates, and apples." Saying this, the Maghrebi drew one dish after another from the bag, and Aladdin, his eyes wide, looked at the magic bag. "Eat," said the Maghrebi to Aladdin. "In this bag are all the dishes you could wish for. It is enough to put your hand in and say, 'I want mutton, or halva, or dates,' and it will appear in the bag." "What a wonder," said Aladdin, stuffing a huge piece of bread into his mouth. "How my mother would like such a bag." "If you obey me," said the Maghrebi, "I will give you many good things. Now let us drink pomegranate juice with sugar and go on." "Where to?" Aladdin asked. "I am tired and it is late. Let us go home." "No, nephew," said the Maghrebi, "we must reach that mountain today. Obey me, I am your uncle, your father's brother. When we return I will give you this magic bag." Aladdin did not want to go, he had eaten his fill and his eyes were closing. But on hearing about the bag he opened his eyes wide, sighed heavily and said, "Very well, let us go." The Maghrebi took Aladdin by the hand and led him to the mountain, barely seen in the distance as the sun had set and it was almost dark. They walked a long time and at last came to the foot of the mountain and into a thick forest. Aladdin could hardly stand on his feet from fatigue. He was afraid in that remote, unfamiliar place and wanted to go home. He almost wept. "O Aladdin," said the Maghrebi, "gather along the path thin, dry branches. I need to light a fire. When the fire is kindled, I will show you something that no one has ever seen." Aladdin desired to see such a thing so much that he forgot his weariness and went to gather brush. He brought a handful of dry twigs, and the Maghrebi lit a great fire. When the flames leapt up, the Maghrebi took from his breast a wooden box and two small boards, on which letters were written as small as ant tracks. "O Aladdin," he said, "I want to make a man out of you and help you and your mother. Do not contradict me and do everything I tell you. Now watch." He opened the box and poured from it a yellowish powder into the fire. Immediately great pillars of flame rose toward the sky, yellow, red and green. "Listen carefully, Aladdin," said the Maghrebi. "Now I will begin to recite over the fire certain spells, and when I finish the earth before you will part, and you will see a large stone with a brass ring. Take hold of the ring and roll the stone away. You will see a stair leading down into the earth. Descend it and you will find a door. Open it and go forward. Whatever threatens you, do not be afraid. Various beasts and monsters will threaten you, but go boldly at them. As soon as they touch you they will fall dead. Thus you will pass 3 chambers. In the 4th you will find an old woman. She will speak kindly to you and will want to embrace you. Do not let her touch you, otherwise you will be turned into a black stone. Beyond the 4th chamber you will see a large garden. Walk through it and open the door at the far end of the garden. Behind that door you will find a great chamber full of gold, precious stones, weapons and garments. Take for yourself what you wish, but bring me only the old brass lamp that hangs on the wall in the right corner. You will know the way to this treasure and will become richer than anyone in the world. When you bring me the lamp I will give you the magic bag. On the way back this ring will protect you from all harm." And he put a small shining ring on Aladdin's finger. Aladdin turned pale with fright at the thought of the dreadful beasts and monsters. "Uncle," he asked the Maghrebi, "why do you not go down there yourself? Go fetch your lamp yourself and take me home." "No, Aladdin," said the Maghrebi. "No one but you can enter the treasure. This hoard has been under the earth for many hundreds of years and it will be taken only by a boy named Aladdin, the son of the tailor Hassan. I have waited long for this day and searched for you across the earth, and now that I have found you you will not go back on me. Do not refuse me, or you will be harmed." "What shall I do?" thought Aladdin. "If I do not go, this wicked sorcerer may well kill me. Better that I descend and fetch his lamp. Perhaps then he will truly give me the bag. My mother will be glad." "Go on conjure," he said to the Maghrebi. "I will bring you the lamp, but be sure to give me the bag." I will give it, cried the Maghrebi. He threw more powder into the fire and began to chant spells in an unknown tongue. His voice rose louder and louder, and when he shouted the last word the earth shook with a thunderous crash and the ground opened before them. "Lift the stone," shouted the Maghrebi in a terrible voice. Aladdin saw at his feet a large stone with a brass ring that sparkled in the firelight. He seized the ring with both hands and pulled the stone toward himself. The stone proved to be very light, and Aladdin raised it with ease. Under the stone was a large round pit, and in its depth a narrow stair wound down far beneath the earth. Aladdin sat on the edge of the pit and jumped onto the first step of the ladder. "Go down and come back quickly," cried the Maghrebi. Aladdin went down the stairs. The deeper he descended the darker it became around him. Aladdin walked on without stopping and, when he felt fear, thought of the food bag. Coming to the last step of the stair he saw a broad iron door and pushed it. The door opened slowly, and Aladdin entered a great chamber from which a faint distant light crept. In the middle of the room stood a frightful Negro in a tiger skin. Seeing Aladdin, the Negro silently rushed at him with a raised sword. But Aladdin remembered what the Maghrebi had told him. He thrust out his hand, and as soon as the sword touched him the Negro fell to the ground lifeless. Aladdin pressed on though his legs trembled. He pushed open a second door and froze. Before him, baring its terrible jaws, stood a fierce lion. The lion sprang at Aladdin, but as soon as its forepaw brushed the boy's head the lion fell dead. Aladdin perspired with fear, but went on. He opened a third door and heard a dreadful hissing. In the center of the room, coiled in a knot, lay 2 huge snakes. They raised their heads and, thrusting forth their forked fangs, slowly crept toward Aladdin, hissing and writhing. Aladdin barely restrained himself from fleeing, but remembered in time the words of the Maghrebi and boldly walked straight at the snakes. As soon as the snakes touched Aladdin's hand with their fangs their glittering eyes dimmed and the snakes lay dead on the ground. Aladdin moved on and, arriving at the 4th door, carefully opened it a little. He thrust his head inside and breathed a sigh of relief. The room was empty except for a little old woman wrapped from head to foot in a shawl. Seeing Aladdin, she sprang at him and cried, "At last you have come, Aladdin, my boy. How long I have waited for you in this dark underworld." Aladdin stretched out his arms to her. It seemed to him as if his mother stood before him, and was about to embrace her when suddenly the room grew light and dreadful creatures appeared in every corner, lions, snakes and nameless monsters that seemed poised for Aladdin to err and permit the old woman to touch him, whereby he would be turned to black stone and the treasure remain in the vault forever. For none but Aladdin may take it. In terror he sprang back and slammed the door. Regaining his composure, he opened it again and found the room empty. Aladdin crossed the chamber and opened the fifth door. Before him lay a beautiful, brightly lit garden where trees grew thick, flowers scented the air and fountains leapt high above basins. On the trees chirped small, bright-colored birds. They could not fly far, for a thin golden net stretched above the garden. All the paths were strewn with round multicolored pebbles that dazzled in the light of brilliant lamps and lanterns hung on the branches. Aladdin began to gather up the pebbles. He hid them wherever he could, in his sash, his bosom, his cap. He loved to play marbles with the other boys and already delighted at the thought of boasting of such a fine find. The stones so enchanted Aladdin that he nearly forgot the lamp. But when his pockets could hold no more stones he remembered the lamp and went to the treasure chamber. It was the last room of the vault, the largest. There lay heaps of gold, rolls of rich cloth, precious swords and goblets, but Aladdin scarcely looked at them. He did not know the value of gold and rare items, having never seen them. Moreover, his pockets were crammed with pebbles, and he would not have given up a single stone for 1,000 gold dinars. He took only the lamp about which the Maghrebi had spoken, an old, verdigris-coated brass lamp, and tried to put it in his deepest pocket, but there was no room, the pocket was full of stones. So Aladdin emptied the pebbles, slipped the lamp into the pocket and covered it again with as many stones as would fit. He stuffed the rest into other pockets. Then he went back and with difficulty climbed the stair. Reaching the last step, he saw that the top was still far off. "Uncle," he called, "reach down and take the cap I hold in my hands, and then pull me up. I cannot get out by myself, I am heavily loaded. What stones I have gathered in the garden! Give me the lamp quickly," cried the Maghrebi. "I cannot get it, it is beneath the stones," answered Aladdin. "Help me out and I will give it to you." But the Maghrebi had no intention of pulling Aladdin up. He wanted the lamp and wished to leave Aladdin in the vault so that no one would know the way into the treasure chamber and betray his secret. He began to beg Aladdin to give him the lamp, but Aladdin refused to part with it. He feared that in the darkness he would lose the stones and wanted to get out to the surface as soon as possible. When the Maghrebi realized that Aladdin would not hand over the lamp, he grew terribly angry. "Ah, so, you will not give me the lamp?" he cried. "Then remain in the vault and die of hunger, and let your own mother not even know of your death." He threw into the fire the remaining powder from the box and pronounced some incomprehensible words, and suddenly the stone closed on its own and the earth closed over Aladdin. This Maghrebi was not at all Aladdin's uncle, he was an evil sorcerer and a crafty wizard. He lived in the city of Ifriqiya in the west of Africa, and learned that somewhere in Persia a hoard lay under the ground, guarded in the name of Aladdin, son of the tailor Hassan. The most precious thing in that hoard was the magic lamp. It grants to its possessor power and riches unmatched by any king. No one but Aladdin can take that lamp. Any other person who might attempt to seize it would be slain by the wardens of the hoard or turned into a black stone. The Maghrebi pondered long on the sand until he learned where Aladdin lived. He endured many hardships and trials before he came from his Ifriqiya to Persia, and now when the lamp was so near, the wretched boy would not give it up. If he reached the surface he might bring others here. The Maghrebi had not waited so long to share the treasure with anyone. Let the hoard belong to no one. Let Aladdin die in the vault. He does not know that the lamp is magical. And the Maghrebi returned home to Ifriqiya, full of anger and vexation. That is all that happened to him so far. As for Aladdin, when the earth closed over him he wept aloud and cried, "Uncle, help me. Uncle, let me out of here. I will die here." But no one heard or answered him. Then Aladdin understood that the man who called himself his uncle was a deceiver and liar. Aladdin wept so much that his clothes were soaked with tears. He ran down the stair to look for another way out of the vault, but all the doors vanished at once and the passage to the garden was closed. Aladdin had no hope of escape and resigned himself to death. He sat upon the stair, bowed his head upon his knees and, in his grief, tore his hands. By chance he lost the ring the Maghrebi had put upon his finger when he lowered him into the vault. Suddenly the earth trembled, and before Aladdin there rose a terrible jinn of enormous size. His head was like a dome, his arms like forks, his legs like roadside pillars, his mouth like a cave, and his eyes threw sparks. "What do you want?" asked the jinn in a voice like thunder. "Command, and it shall be done." "Who are you? Who are you?" cried Aladdin, covering his face with his hands to avoid seeing the frightful jinn. "Spare me, do not kill me." "I am Danash, son of Kashkash," answered the jinn. "I am the chief of all jinn and the servant of the ring and of him who owns the ring. I will do whatever my master commands." Aladdin remembered the ring and what the Maghrebi had told him when he gave it to him. He took courage and said, "I want you to bring me to the surface of the earth." No sooner had he spoken than he found himself on the ground by the cold, dead fire where he and the Maghrebi had sat the night before. The day had come and the sun shone brightly. Aladdin thought that all had been a dream. He ran as fast as his legs could carry him home and, out of breath, entered his mother's dwelling. Aladdin's mother sat in the middle of the room, her hair loose, and wept bitterly. She thought her son was dead. Aladdin, scarcely having closed the door, fell senseless from hunger and fatigue. His mother dashed water upon his face and when he came to himself asked, "O Aladdin, where have you been and what has happened to you? Where is your uncle and why have you returned without him?" "He is not my uncle at all. He is an evil sorcerer," said Aladdin in a weak voice. "I will tell you everything, mother, but first give me something to eat." His mother fed him boiled beans, she had not even bread, and then said, "Now tell me what happened and where you spent the night." "I was in a vault and found wonderful stones there," Aladdin said. He told his mother everything that had happened. When he finished he peered into the bowl of beans and asked, "Is there nothing else to eat, mother?" "I am still hungry." "There is nothing left, my child. You ate all I had for today and tomorrow," said Aladdin's mother sadly. "I have been so grieved for you that I did not work and have no yarn to sell at the market." "Do not grieve, mother," said Aladdin. "I have a lamp that I took from the vault. It is old, but perhaps it can be sold." He took out the lamp and handed it to his mother. She examined it and said, "I will clean it and carry it to market. Perhaps they will give enough for it to feed us tonight." She took a rag and a piece of chalk and went out into the yard. But as soon as she began to rub the lamp with the cloth the earth trembled and before her appeared a jinn of great stature. Aladdin's mother screamed and fell senseless. Aladdin heard the cry and saw that the room had grown dark. He ran into the yard and saw his mother lying on the ground, the lamp thrown nearby, and in the middle of the yard stood a jinn so tall that his head could not be seen. He overshadowed the sun and twilight fell. Aladdin seized the lamp, and a thundering voice rolled out, "O master of the lamp, I am at your service." Aladdin had by now grown accustomed to jinn and was not overly frightened. He raised his voice as loud as he could so the jinn would hear him. "Who are you, O jinn, and what can you do?" "I am Maymun, son of Shamhorish," answered the jinn. "I am the slave of the lamp and the servant of him who possesses it. Command me what you wish. If you desire that I destroy the city or build a palace, command it." While he spoke, Aladdin's mother regained consciousness and, seeing the enormous foot of the jinn like a big boat near her face, screamed in terror. Aladdin put his hands to his mouth and shouted at the top of his voice,